I want to talk about some of the most uncomfortable moments I've had as a professional in the photography industry and why some of those uncomfortable moments were actually the moments that propelled my career forward the most.
Are you tired of the endless stream of fantasy marketing and vanity metrics? Yeah, so am I. My name is James Patrick, and I'm an internationally published photographer, media specialist, and marketing strategist. As a creative entrepreneur, I face the same exact frustrations you have, being bombarded by generic advice that promises success but never lives up to the hype. We need to move beyond the posturing, beyond the facade, beyond the image to navigate the unique challenges we face as creatives. Together, we're going to dive into real stories, real strategies, and the real work that can lead to the real results. This is the Beyond the Image podcast.
What is going on? And thank you so much for tuning into this or latest episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. I'm either you could take some time to get some information and get a little inspiration to help you in your creative entrepreneurial journey. So, some of the most uncomfortable moments I've had as a professional photographer meant I had to put myself in front of people and open myself up to judgment, open myself up to critique, open myself up to feedback, sometimes not always positive feedback, in hopes that not only was I going to get information, inspiration on how to improve my craft and hone in the work I was doing, but also, more importantly, to have the opportunity to build what could be successful business relationships that I could then campaign work from. What I had to do at the early part of my career, in fact, one of the biggest leaps I've ever taken in my professional career, was when I started traveling out to New York every other year to market and campaign my book of work. And what I would do, and this all got inspired. I was interning for another photographer at the time. I was still early on in my career. And I asked what it took for him to get in front of top magazine editors, top publishing houses, top media professionals. And the feedback was very simple. He said, "Well, I went out to New York and I tried to book as many meetings as I could, and I shopped my book around." And I said, "Well, I want to do that. So I'm going to do that same thing." And I booked a trip to New York for a week. And in the months leading up to, I put a call into every photo editor, every art director, every creative director for every top publishing house, every magazine, every editorial department that I could find in Manhattan, and tried to book as many meetings as I could. And I was able to secure a few in the weeks leading up to, but if I got a response, if they answered the phone or if they responded to the emails, the biggest response I have is, "Well, let me know when you're in town." So I was able to, I believe I set up 3 meetings prior to landing in New York. And I thought, well, this is a very expensive trip for 3 meetings, but I suppose if one of those meetings yields business, then it was worth it. But then I had another 2 dozen photo editors or art directors or creative professionals who says, "Yeah, we could meet with you, but call us when you're in town. Let us know when you're here. We're not going to put anything on the books in advance." So I had 3 meetings booked and another 2 dozen potential meetings that I could book. So I landed in New York, and the first day out there, I landed on Sunday. On a Monday, the first thing I did was I went around to the 24 different people who said, "Let us know when you're in town." And I dropped off a hard physical copy of my portfolio. I printed off dozens of them and brought them all with me. The suitcase was heavy, with the note saying, "I've made it in town. I'd love to set up a meeting with you. Here are the dates I'm going to be in town." And then I didn't just leave that with their, well, a lot of magazines, this is something you learn. Second you land in New York and you start doing this, is a lot of them don't let you leave things at the front desk. Not like there's a lobby and the front desk person at the lobby can just take a package for someone. You often have to find the courier desk, which is usually around the back of the building or in a basement or in a sub basement. And I had to find all these different places, literally running around. And there was a blizzard that hit that day also. It was the day after the Super Bowl that year. I remember that. And there was a blizzard in New York that day. So it was snowing, and I was running through the snow and the sleet and stepping in ice and just an absolute miserable time. Um, and then after dropping off the 24 or so books at all these other places, I then put calls into them as well and left voicemails to say, "Hey, I just dropped a book off at your courier desk. I'm in town for this week. Would love to set up a meeting with you." And doing all that follow up, I was able to secure another, I believe it was another like 10 or 12 meetings. So I had about 12 to 15 meetings total throughout that week. And then I had to navigate through New York, go to all these meetings, make all these meetings on time. And the meetings sometimes were as short as 5 minutes or less, where you sit down, you put your portfolio in front of them, and you give them a chance to go through your work. And then maybe they ask questions, or maybe they just look through your work and they say nothing and they hand you your book back and they say, "Thank you so much for coming in." They can be that short. And then sometimes some of them will converse with you and ask you about certain shots in your portfolio. And then you can start to develop that rapport and develop that conversation and develop that relationship. And it was all these meetings and running all through New York. I think I've talked about on this show, like, this is how I first met with Sports Illustrated. And by the time I made it into the Sports Illustrated office, I just come out of a blizzard. All the snow had just now melted on me. So I'm now covered in wet rainwater. I had just stepped in this giant puddle that I thought was a block of ice, but it was just a foot deep puddle. So my entire leg is drenched in street water from Manhattan. And so one shoe's squeaking, I'm covered in water, and here's the photo director of Sports Illustrated. Fun, right? Fun. It was very uncomfortable, but it was through these meetings that I was able to procure years and years and years worth of work. And it didn't just happen overnight. Some of these people I had to stay in touch with, and then I met 2 years later when I was there again, or I met, 5 years after, or what I was at 4 years after that when I was there again. I started to do that every other year. I'd go out to New York and I'd market my latest book of work. But it was these face-to-face meetings that were the foundational bedrock of developing relationships with these photo editors, developing relationships with these creative professionals, that led to so much work being procured over the next decade of my career. And so I made a habit of this, where if most people are just relying on social media, I'm going to go one step further and do email. If most people are relying on email, I'm going to go one step further and place a phone call. If most people are relying on phone calls, I'm going to go further and I'm going to travel to the city to meet with you in person. I had a project in Southern California, and just by the realization that I'm going to be in Southern California, I looked up publishing houses in Southern California, found a few, and says, "Hey, I'm going to be in town this week. I'd love to meet." Anytime I travel to an area, I see if I can meet with a client. And it's uncomfortable and it's vulnerable. And it puts you in front of professionals who may not say the best, most flattering things about your work. And that's what we're really scared of. But here's a couple different things you need to realize. Number one is that most creative professionals want to see other creative professionals succeed. Most creative professionals who are in these roles, who are in positions to hire, find it respectful that you have built the confidence enough that you are willing to share your work with them, even if they don't like your work. And because of that respect, they're going to give you feedback that can help you in your career, that can help you in developing your work. If you want to work for us, here's what I would like to see from you. I heard that a lot. And that gave me a lot of direction if these were clients that were important to me. And that is how, after a few years, I was able to land other clients because I heeded their advice. If you want to be working for us, here's the types of work I would like to see from you. I'm going to get to making that work. And then I'm going to make sure that they know that I listened to that advice and I started creating that work. And they appreciated that. I attended another event here in Arizona. There was a traveling photo agent who was taking one-to-one meetings with creative professionals and to review our work for the potential of signing us to his agency. What he did not tell us was that he was going to do this publicly in front of all the other people applying. And he was going to ask us very difficult, very hard, very invasive questions about our work. And it was wildly uncomfortable and wildly embarrassing because we're having our work torn in half in front of all of our competitors who are applying for this agency. But everything he said, all the advice he gave was so brilliantly sound and so helpful and so valuable to the marketability of my portfolio. I ended up meeting in one of my trips to New York one of the top photo directors of Sports Illustrated. And I ended up hiring this individual to bluntly go through my entire book of work and let me know where I was succeeding and where I was failing, where I needed to put my attention if I wanted to grow my business moving forward. And they were very long, painful sessions because I'm opening myself up to someone who's telling me what I'm doing wrong and what I need to be doing better. And this was difficult. And for a lot of intents and purposes, like a lot of these things, not only are individuals not doing anymore, some of them don't know if they can do it. Like the idea of going to New York and meeting with a bunch of people. Well, a lot of people aren't working in their offices anymore. So the idea of being able to capture someone or meet with someone at their office is not as common as it used to be. So if this comes down to one of the most valuable things you can do is to sit across from someone to show them what you can do. This was an inspiration for me. Now, this original iteration of this inspiration happened with my Fitposium conference. If you're not familiar, I ran a conference for a decade, and the conference grew. We had 500 to 600 people one year at the conference. It grew and it grew and it grew and it grew, and then we evolved it over time. We did some hybrid conferences. We did some small, intimate, high-touch workshops for 3 days. So we tried a lot of different variations of this, but one of the most valuable things we did at this event, and I was obsessed with this, and all these, if we were to ask any of our attendees, the thousands of people that we had attend our conference over the decade, their favorite element was the following thing. What we did at every single one of these events, from the first one to the last one, is we brought out top editorial professionals to be at the event in person. So if you were attending the event, we were in the health and wellness profession, you're a health and wellness professional, you could sit down with the editor of Oxygen magazine and show them what you do. That is career changing. Then you can get up and you can sit with the editor of Fitness magazine. Then you can get up and you can sit with the editor of Scottsdale Health magazine, of Strong Fitness magazine, of Women's Health and Fitness magazine. Every year we brought dozens and dozens of top media professionals to our event in person to meet with them face to face. And I thought about that for so many years. And we stopped doing that event innumerable years ago, so I could focus on, my production company, my photo business, my video business, the studio I opened. But the idea has sat with me of, there is nothing like this for photographers. There's nothing like this for creatives. Well, let's just make it. So that's what we made. And I'm calling it the Cover Sessions at the Hive Studios. And we're hosting our first one on May 28th. So here's what this is going to be. On May 28th at the Hive Studios in Phoenix, Arizona, we are going to allow only 8 photographers in. In fact, a couple of those seats are already gone. And we are going to allow these photographers to do a live editorial photo shoot in front of a panel of media experts. I'm bringing out some of my media contacts as well as creative professionals to watch you do your photo shoot. And then we are then going to provide feedback on what we see that is working in your work, in your approach, in your creative mindset, in your methodology for how you craft images. And then you get the chance to show off what you do to clients who could potentially hire you. So we already have a few, we've already announced a few, like I will be there representing my publishing company, and we hire photographers and videographers all the time to be shooters on our projects, in addition to our publishing house. And then we also have Morel Inglefield, who's the art director of Phoenix Magazine, who'll be joining us on the panel as well. And we have another media professional we just signed on that will make that announcement here shortly. This is your chance to do your work in front of professionals who will give you invaluable insights on what you are doing right and where you could stand to improve your book of work and improve your marketability. But also, it's your chance to meet with clients who could potentially hire you. That's why I created this event. So if this sounds of interest to you, and I genuinely hope it does. I am very excited about this. I think this is a thing that we can start to do quarterly, and we could theme it every quarter. Like this one, we're doing cover shoots. Maybe one we do product photography. Maybe one we do a commercial campaign, a lifestyle campaign. Maybe some can be video campaigns. But I want to give creatives the opportunity to put their best foot forward and show what they can do in front of people who can give them the insights and the opportunities that could change everything for them. So if you're interested, if this sounds of interest to you, go to hivestudiosaz.com, hivestudiosaz.com. Just hivestudiosaz.com. Click on the workshops tab and you'll see the listing for cover sessions at the Hive Studios. Our first one is May 28th. I believe it's a Thursday from 5 to 8. Like I said, we're only allowing 8 photographers to get access to this, so we can have time with each of these photographers to see their work, see the work they're doing live. So you get to do a photo shoot live. So you bring your cameras, you get to do a photo shoot live, and then get immediate feedback on the work you're doing. So check it out, hivestudiosaz.com/workshops. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. We'll catch you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.